I pledge my purity to my father, my future husband, and my Creator.
I, my daughter's father, choose before God to war for my daughter's purity.
I recognize that virginity is my most precious gift to offer to my future husband.
I acknowledge myself as the authority and protector of my daughter's virginity.
I will not engage in sexual activity of any kind before marriage, but will keep my thought and my body pure as a very special present for the one I marry.
And pledge to be a man of integrity as I lead, guide, and pray over my daughter and her virginity.
It's a great day at the Abstinence Clearinghouse. How can I help you?
It's like a wedding, but with a twist.
Where dad gets in a tuxedo and the daughter gets in a gown.
She's daddy's little girl there to take a vow of chastity.
Which persuades girls to abstain from sex until marriage.
To deepen the bond that the father has with the daughter.
This is the creepiest thing I've ever heard, and I've heard some creepy things from the Christian right.
They're the creation of the conservative Christian movement in America.
Nearly 3,000 purity balls will be thrown this year.
I mean, what era are we living in where the man passes the daughter from dad to the husband?
You want me to sit in the middle, Lauren? You want to sit like a lady for me? Okay. I'll sit in the middle.
And I'll sit on your lap.
Why don't we have Katie sit on my lap? If anyone's going to sit on my lap.
Disappearing conditions.
Huh?
Katie.
Huh? There. Tell you what, Lauren, why don't you sit on this right here? Can you do that? There. I am Jimmy McCall. I am from Clarksville, Tennessee. This is Katie. She is 4. This is Lauren.
I am 600.
600. Minus 2 zeros. And this is Jessica. She's 8.
So Lauren and Jessica have attended a purity ball.
Yes, they have. What Lauren did this year and Jessica did this year and the previous year. You start kindergarten to 5th grade, you know, typical dance where you go and
you get gifts?
You get gifts, yeah. You go in and we listen to a pastor give a speech about just why we're all there, a little bit of praying, talking about the relationship between a father and daughter. I think we have some good kids that, one thing, they're being brought up in the church and they're being told that no, this isn't acceptable. Where there's a lot of people out there that are not being brought up in the church, and not even that they're not being brought up in the church, but the parents aren't focusing on the fact that, teaching them this isn't acceptable. Hopefully our girls have good relationships to where their friends are, we can never control their friends, but hopefully they're around the right kids.
Do you like anyone at school?
Yeah.
Yeah? Who do you like?
Katie and Thelby.
Katie and who?
Thelby.
Thelby?
What about Peanut?
Peanut? Is that a crush you have? No?
She doesn't like Katie anymore because she stole her man.
Oh, who was your man?
His name's Brian, but the bus driver calls him Peanut.
Oh, why is he calling Peanut?
Because he's so little.
Aw.
Whatever education they can get, if they're hearing something, is better than just hearing from their friends that don't know anything.
Were you both virgins until marriage?
Unfortunately, no. I don't want to be a hypocrite and not teach, but I learned. I know. Sometimes you learn from your mistakes. Not that it was all a mistake, but I think in high school I got caught up in that. And I'm a guy. I don't know if that makes any difference, but your friends even back then, and it was just like, okay, there's nothing wrong with this. I didn't have that support set telling me, that you didn't need to, and so that's why I hope better for my daughters. I hope that, I can only hope they wait, I think more women probably lose their virginity from drinking than anything else, because I've seen some girls act a fool drinking, but I took care of a lot of drunk people, and they are idiots. I swear I'm going to take the girls over to the fraternity house whenever, on a Friday night when they're about 13, and say, look at these people, and watch them. Just the people watch, because people do some dumb things whenever they're drunk.
Hey, Ben, have a seat. We're doing a survey. Abstinence. Ben, we're doing a survey on abstinence.
Is everyone here a virgin?
I am.
So we got two?
I'm a bunch of times removed from that family, but I call myself one, yeah.
No, I'm probably the closest here.
Which isn't even close, but he's probably the closest.
Yeah.
Okay, so
no virgins, no way.
Okay. What age were all of your first time?
I actually conned this guy the first time.
Yeah, I was a devout virgin until he got me drunk and decided I needed to lose it, I guess.
You lost it to him?
No, he talked to Northeast cheerleader into walking up to me, and the girl looks right at me in the face and just really says to me, she goes, "You don't fuck?" And that was really what she says, and I just go, "Yeah." Like, I didn't know what to do, and then, hell, I might as well tell the whole story.
Yeah.
So we go in this empty room, and me and her start going at it. I don't know what the hell I'm doing. This girl's like a pro. I'm over here just laying down like, what do I do? What do I do? And then 10 guys walk in the room while I'm doing this and start singing "I Got Friends in Low Places."
My idea.
Sitting here watching me do this. Like, I got friends.
We were in high school.
I had to push her off me and run out of the room pissed off.
How old were you?
I was 15.
Oh, wow. How old was she?
She was, I think she's 15 too.
15, I don't know.
But she had a lot of experience.
She was good.
Yeah, she was.
She was good.
Alright, how are you?
I was in 8th grade. Yeah. I was 13 years old. We had just been learning about sex and whatnot, and this new girl came in, or whatever. I started dating her, and then like 3 months later, we got this little stress ball, and we started playing hide and go get it. You know what I'm talking about? We like, you know what I'm talking about? Hide and go get it. Where you put it places, then you go find it.
Yeah.
So she put it like down her shirt. I grabbed it, and I put it down my pants. She grabbed it, and we went at it. There it is.
Tell us about your first time.
Yeah, I was 15, and she had a boyfriend, and she was a whore. And she cried because she was afraid, and I didn't get to finish, and I cried.
Yes!
It's pretty bad.
Wow.
Yeah, blue balls.
Did she entice you, or were you?
What?
Did you bring it up, or did
No, she just came up to me and said, "You want to fuck?"
Well, that happens a lot nowadays, doesn't it?
They do,
So
man. They're bad.
Yeah.
So it's the girl initiating it.
Yeah, and I couldn't say no.
Always the girl.
I was 14. She was 18. She was pretty nasty. From Houston County. Imagine that. And I got to finish. It was a new experience, that's for sure.
All right. And did you learn about it in school or from your parents?
No, pretty much they just said don't do it. Nothing really about safe sex, so when you did it, you're,
Just shooting.
Shooting for whatever goes, you know?
Okay. Did she initiate it, or did you?
We were both intoxicated,
Oh, okay.
so it just kind of fell together.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Question for everyone. Did everyone do it safe? Yeah.
Did I?
First time.
You did.
I did, yeah.
We all did. I think.
Yeah.
I did.
Are you just saying that?
I was scared. No, I was scared to death. I didn't want to catch AIDS. You know what I'm saying?
That's the only thing I was scared
For
of.
real, like we learned. That's what we learned about AIDS and stuff like that, and then the hardcore stuff. They never told us about the little bitty STDs.
How old are you guys?
I'm 22.
We all need to be 21 right
Yeah,
now.
you're all at least 21.
I am 21, so
How many different girls have you each been with? We'll go into
I'm not gonna say. I'm not even gonna come close to saying. I'll say 7.
God's number. Okay.
I'm gonna say 1.
You stick to that.
I'll say a half, and if you guys are gonna say that.
I mean, if you let me, I'm not gonna say on camera.
I'm not gonna say on
He
camera.
ain't gonna say on camera neither.
Just in case Mac's girlfriend watches this.
And I don't want my mom to have a heart attack if she ever sees it.
Yeah,
And she knows I'm a whore, but she don't know that.
I don't want my dad
I've been
blowing
with
up my
20.
phone. That a boy.
20.
How about that with
20
Coleman?
different girls.
20 different girls.
That's not as high as he is.
That's not
Still
bad.
okay.
Trust me.
5.
5?
Yeah.
4.
4?
Will, don't even say it.
I'll go with a nice even 12.
Damn.
You guys are making me look like a whore.
3.
Bastards.
20. Well, we just said no.
Okay, now the real answers. Go. Just kidding.
I'll go with you.
Alright.
No, I'm not gonna go that high.
Please just go.
I will say.
Say it.
I'll say
Say
I
it.
have at least had sex with 55 people.
Really?
I'm not, that's the highest I'll
Not
go.
lying.
That's the highest I'll go though.
We don't have enough events here.
Yeah, so we just do it.
Yeah, seriously.
I think sex is too like on a pedestal and everything. You know, it's like if you have sex, it's a whole new lifestyle. No, it's not. You're just doing what your body wants to do. Hell, you're having a good time. That's all it is.
It breaks my heart because I think, and I do wonder, even as you're talking to them, I assume you talk to them all at the same time. I wondered if you talked to them individually, if they'd say anything different. I don't know if that's true, but it could have been, you know, peer pressure, just a bunch of guys standing around. But I'm not totally surprised. They won't know all the, you know, the effects of their decisions possibly until later. And they may say, I don't care, it will never affect me. My name is Monica Krozik, and I work at the Hope Pregnancy Center in Clarksville, Tennessee. And what we do here, we have different areas. We have client services, and that's when a lady can come in and get a free confidential pregnancy test and talk with a counselor. And we also have limited ultrasounds that we offer, mainly for those that are very abortion-minded, to see this ultrasound and see the baby and the heartbeat and all. And we also have abstinence education, and that's our area. And the name of our program, our ministry, is called Delayed Gratification. Why we do the Purity Ball is to establish a relationship with a father and daughter. And we had heard such amazing stories about little girls that their dad would go to the door and ring the doorbell and bring them flowers to start the night. And when he shares with her that she is important, she is loved, she's special, he cares about her and the decisions that she makes, we know that that greatly encourages the decisions she makes.
Whoever came up with the name Purity Balls, like I think it's just a dreadful name. Like it's just like you just think about it and I'm like, it's awful. Like it's it's just they leave it to Christians to not see the the potential in the fact that people are gonna think testicles, when you purity balls. It's just awful. Hi, I am Matthew Paul Turner, and I live in Nashville, Tennessee, and I wrote the book, What You Didn't Learn from Your Parents About Sex, a guide to a touchy subject. I grew up in a really strict, fundamental Baptist environment. I made the born-again decision to follow Jesus when I was 4 years old, and that was the first of like 6 times that I ran down the aisle. Every time there was a sermon on hell, the tribulation, or communist China, I had to run down the aisle again and get saved, because it just it was all based on fear. And sex is one of those topics that there's a lot of fear built in. When I was a kid, I remember I was 16. I held hands with a girl for the very first time, and I remember going home that evening and feeling so guilty. Now, most Christians are not going to feel that much the kind of guilt that I felt, but this was my experience from being raised in a fundamental Baptist home. I felt really guilty about stuff. So when I went into college and I started dating more seriously, every step that I would take in a relationship that would be a physical step, I would feel guilty about it, and I would promise myself that I would never go that far again. And then I would flirt we would flirt all the way up to that line, and then we would say, are we going to cross, think to ourselves, are we going to cross it? And then we would end up crossing that line. And I just know that for me personally, that battle really messed with my ability to be free sexually within my marriage. It doesn't matter if you get married at 18 or get married at 28. It's don't have sex, don't have sex, don't have sex, don't have sex. Wedding night, have sex. You are free to do anything you want. Turning that off, turning the mind off, that sex is wrong, sex is wrong, sex is wrong, and then all of a sudden turning that emotion off and saying, okay, it's free, it's okay for me to do anything I want. Oh my gosh. A lot of Christians don't have the freedom to express themselves sexually. They don't have the freedom to they feel guilty about all of the sex, anything that they would feel sexually, even within the context of a committed relationship. They would feel guilty. They feel a lot of remorse for going potentially too far.
I'm a STARS panelist, students teaching and respecting sexuality, so I preach about abstinence. And
Simon needs that course.
Well,
yeah.
Randy Jackson.
Yeah, Simon needs that heavily, Simon.
I can give you a good speech if you'd like to hear it.
Okay.
Let's say that you're oh, I really love my boyfriend or girlfriend, whichever way, And you're like, oh, I've been with them for so long, I should have sex with them. Like, it's totally cool. We've been together for forever. Then you're like, if you're gonna marry them, why can't you wait another 5-6 years? And then you're like, oh, then we're gonna do it then. And then you're like, we waited all that time, and now it's like really special. Like, we have such self-control. I just think it's
Amy, I think you're absolutely right.
I love that. I think that's nice. Yes, welcome to Hollywood. I agree with her speech, by the way, Simon.
1 week in LA, it'll all change.
Good morning and welcome in. I'm Steve Gill. This is the Steve Gill Show, the talk of Tennessee. And you were hearing just a little clip from the American Idol contestant phase. You know, the early phase, everybody likes to watch because, you know, there's some really bad contestants. But one of them who was really good and really kind of got attacked by the panel because of her position on sexuality, not in terms of being for it or for perverse sexuality, but for being for abstinence, kind of got mistreated, I thought, a little bit by the panel and kind of became a laugh line. She is from Knoxville, Tennessee.
Everyone as a young kid really doesn't know what sex is. We're all innocent. We have this totally blank perspective of things, and really when you start growing up, so it wasn't until I think 7th or 8th grade that really I started learning about things like that. Was a total shock to me. 7th and 8th grade, I was like, what are you guys talking about? There were people in grades older than me that I knew that had started doing things like that, and I saw what it had done to them, and I saw the names that people called them behind their backs, and I just knew that I didn't want that. And so, you know, there was this whole spiritual side of it that, this is what I know that I shouldn't do. But then there was also the physical effects of it, just mentally and emotionally, what I saw people going through. And I just knew that I didn't want to be a part of that.
And I am not dissing virginity. Virginity is a precious thing, and it's a beautiful thing. And for somebody who wants to save that for marriage, I think it's awesome. I think that, but don't make it into something that you're better than the person who decides not to do that. You're not better.
A lot of them I kind of took under my wing, and I can't say that they're perfect now, but I know many of them are 10 times better than they were, and that's just the greatest feeling. They're not 100% better, they're not perfect by any means, but just to know that I helped them improve.
Here to sing her first single, Count Me Out, please welcome Amy Flynn.
A typical lovey-dovey romance story, or so I thought until you wanted more from me.
Your song, Count Me Out, what does that mean?
To me, it's a song on purity, really.
It's Count Me Out. As you may recall from American Idol, Amy was focus of some criticism, really, by the panel for her anti-sex abstinence policy, and that song really kind of plays into it as well. By the way, Angel, your voice coach, wrote the song.
Yes, Angel Higgs, and she did a fabulous
Great
job
song.
with that.
So you wrote Amy Catherine Flynn's song, Count Me Out.
Yes.
And you're also abstinent.
Yes. My stance on it, my mother always taught me, that you don't have sex until you're married, and so I was solid in that, and I was like, no, all through high school, and went to college and was like, no, and then I met this one guy, and my mind just went in la-la land. I mean, it just hit me so hard, and next thing you know, it was gone, and you can't get it back. And it was terrible because it happened so quick, and I would have never, ever, ever thought that would have happened to me.
So are you now waiting until your wedding night?
I am. I'm waiting till my wedding night, and I'm so excited, And it's funny because I told my pastor, I was like, I'm not going to have a long engagement because I tell you, once I know it's on and popping, I know I'm on camera, but it's. That's it. It's exciting because to find someone that is going to be there for you and that loves you as a person. So it's exciting but I'm not kind of like, man, I can't wait till I get married so I can have sex. But I am excited about it because I am 28. I just get excited thinking about them. Let's all think about our husbands. Yeah, it's just great. It's great. When you know someone's there, when they've committed to you and they're going to love you for the rest of your life, you know that they've got you and you know that they're going to hold you, and that's good. Outside of marriage, you don't know that.
Abstinence and these promises that you're making these kids want to make. Mine wasn't a purity ball or a ring that I wore. It was what that was right and what was good and what my parents expected and what I want my children to do also. So when all of a sudden you save yourself for someone special, and then that's what you think all your life, and it doesn't work. Because some marriages, no matter how much you wait and what you, it just doesn't work. And there is divorce. So what happens is, you become a fruitcake like me. It was 9 years before I remarried. And then that marriage didn't work. And Amy Catherine's life is a lot more complicated than she decided to share with you. And she's been through some severe tragedies, and it was a lot related to her father. And she's come a long way with that. So again, these special men that women set themselves up for in their lives are setting us up for emotional crashes. So I'm saying, okay, so now I'm telling my daughter the same thing. Save yourself for someone special. And when she all of a sudden wakes up one day and he's not special, and he's screwing around on him, or doing drugs behind his back, or gambling away your money, or snorting cocaine up his nose, or whatever. What happens to those women? So, okay, I did all this for what? So you feel ripped off. You really and truly do. So you're looking for this special knight in shining armor, and when the house and the picket fence all comes down, there's still spousal abuse and child abuse and drug abuse going on in those abstinent, save yourself marriages. So I don't know.
Didn't say long ago.
They killed millions of people.
Tonight.
Denny Patton, a Christian youth minister, founded Silver Ring Thing in 1996.
We want you to put it on your finger. And on your wedding day, we want you to take it off and give it to your husband or wife and say, I have waited for you.
In the United States, more than 65 million people are currently living with an incurable sexually transmitted disease. How is it possible that you as a parent do not know this? Can you name a bigger epidemic in America?
I'm Denny Patton. I'm 56 years old, and I'm the president and founder of the Silver Ring Thing. First and foremost, the reason abstinence is important to me is it's a faith-based reason. I believe the Bible is true. I believe God created human beings, and therefore He created sex, and I believe He created human beings and He created sex for a purpose. And that purpose is described in the Bible as marriage.
Before God Almighty, I, Denny, agree to wear a silver ring as a sign of my pledge to abstain from sexual behavior that is inconsistent with biblical standards. On my wedding day, I will present my silver ring to my spouse, representing my faithful commitment to the marriage covenant. Congratulations, guys. Give yourselves a hand.
Well, the ultimate goal of the silver ring thing is to help teenagers find Christ and end up in heaven. So I'm focused on unchurched people. This whole program is designed for an unchurched mindset. So Christian kids are coming anyway. That's not even hard. That's autopilot. It's their friends we want to reach.
The silver ring thing is on the move, and they're bringing abstinence to America. These teens and 20-somethings have all pledged to hold off on getting it on until marriage, and they've got silver rings and hip-hop rhymes to prove it. They cross the country with a high-tech roadshow featuring pro-virginity music, skits, and videos.
In a church in Seattle where we did something like the silver ring thing. It wasn't called that, but it was just a church camp where they preached about abstinence until marriage. And so I put on a ring at 16 and
Where's that ring now?
And where is that ring? That's a good question.
The funniest part was how they did a story of getting with about the sex part, whatever, and they took scenes of it from my favorite movie.
You got that right.
Star Wars.
Yeah, Star Wars.
The one dude came up and we said our prayers to Jesus and all, and that always makes you feel pretty good.
When did you make the pledge to stay abstinent?
Tonight.
Tonight? For the first time?
Mm-hmm.
And you? When did you make the pledge to stay abstinent?
What's abstinent?
It means not doing let's say some people call it rocking the buoy, shaking the boat, making the bed go squeak. Don't ask me how I know that. Yeah, that's the easier way to say it.
Yeah, my parents have taught me that, and that's what I try to be careful about.
Okay. Are you both virgins?
My religion is Catholic.
Oh, okay.
Not quite. Sit there, I've made some mistakes back in my life.
Yeah.
I personally know somebody, personally talked to somebody who lost their virginity. Or actually it was his future wife that lost her virginity and he had not yet. And according to what's supposed to happen, I know it doesn't happen every time, but according to what's supposed to happen, a woman's supposed to bleed the first time she has sex. And she had already had sex, so it was impossible for that to happen. So they were praying for renewal in her, for healing to happen. And they felt like, when they would talk to the people, they would say, yeah, we're both virgins, to the point where they fully felt healed. And the first time they had sex on their wedding day, she actually bled. And it was just, it was amazing. It was like one of those things where it was like, talking about second chances, one over the top story, where a woman is, literally healed.
Well, we've been going out for about 3 months now, and we've chosen to stay abstinent until marriage. Right on the first day, I told him that, I was staying abstinent until marriage. I'm like, my purity is really important to me, and he was like in 100% support of me. We've definitely talked about like boundaries and like, we've talked about sex and stuff and how we're both wanting to wait and just laying down like boundaries and stuff, so. Virginity is, a gift from God, and it's like really sacred, and it should be with the right person if it is, but just don't do it.
Yeah. There's not much to say, really.
When did you get married?
I got married in August. I've been married for 10 months, almost. Yeah.
Congratulations.
Yeah. Thanks.
Was she a virgin?
That was the story I told you. Was my own story. Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. It was actually mine. Yeah. So it was amazing. It was amazing, and it was a true blessing where I just prayed, you know what, Lord, you have something for us. You know what I mean? And to witness that firsthand, and to be able to share that story with people, and saying, you have no idea what God's plans are.
So a kid puts the ring on and wears it for 4 years, 5 years. They go to college, get drunk, they have sex. They wake up the next morning, take the ring off, and they're disgusted with themselves. And then 2 weeks later, they say a prayer and they put the ring back on. And they wear it to their wedding night, then they take it off and give it to their husband and wife and say, I've waited for you. Is that success or failure? Well, the media's definition, they failed because they could have gotten an STD. No, that's success because they were forgiven, and we believe in a creator who forgives. So, but we've been letting the media define success or failure to us, and there's a lot of kids out there who've struggled through being abstinent, but trust and believe it's the truth, and they need to know they're successful in their struggle. I'm a Christian, but I still sin. But I'm still going to heaven because my sin is forgiven. But fortunately, I don't have to worry about the results, just the information, just share the truth.
Currently, I'm Senior Research Scientist at ETO Associates, and I'm in some respects known as a father or grandfather of the field because it was about 30 years ago that I began doing research in this field. But I've become even more known for systematically reviewing all the other studies done by other people, both abstinence programs and comprehensive programs, both in this country and in all countries throughout the world.
We'll teach, don't smoke, and we're intolerant of smoking. We never say, but you're probably going to smoke, so please use a filtered cigarette, We don't say, don't drink, but if you are going to drink, will you please wear a seatbelt if you're going to drink and drive? We don't say that. We don't teach kids to believe they can't do it on high standard issues. But when it comes to sex, for some reason we think that's got to be the message. Don't have sex. That's the message, but you're going to have sex, so use a condom. Like that's going to protect you.
The evidence regarding comprehensive programs is really very clear and very compelling. We have almost 50 programs, 50 different studies of different programs throughout the country, and there are more than 30 which have measured the impact upon initiation of sex, and none of them hastened the initiation of sex. They also have very strong evidence that they do not increase the number of sexual partners, and very strong evidence that they do not increase the frequency of sex either. So some people fear that comprehensive programs, which emphasize abstinence but also talk about condoms and contraception, some people fear that those programs will increase sexual behavior. The evidence is compelling. They don't.
It's condom versus abstinence is what it's all about. That's the argument. That's the battle. And I've studied condoms, and I've found out they aren't as successful as they're promoted to be.
Proponents of abstinence programs sometimes have confused evidence for lack of effectiveness with lack of evidence for effectiveness. A number of years ago, we did not have good evidence of any kind as to how effective condoms were against specific sexually transmitted diseases. That research simply has not been done. So not all, but some proponents of programs were then claiming they're not effective at all against these, which is not the case. Just we had no evidence, we had no research. Now that evidence is coming in, we're finding out that the condoms are quite effective. Not 100%, but quite effective against those STDs. So the people who made those claims should have known better, and we now know that what they were saying was just simply false.
What you'll see on TV is this. They'll say, in just about every commercial, don't have unprotected sex. That's their big statement. And the inference is they lead you to believe that if you are wearing a condom, you are therefore protected. That's the inference. But if you study condoms and how well do they protect you, it is nowhere near safe enough to even be called safe sex, which is what they used to call it. Now they call it safer sex, but the actual definition is unsafe sex. They're literally teaching you how to have unsafe sex. Okay, it's the truth. When you wear a condom, you're having unsafe sex. When you choose abstinence, you're having safe sex. You're waiting saved sex, maybe is a better way to say it. That message doesn't get out there.
Just to be very clear, I want you to know that I personally really do believe that the best choice for young people is not to have sex, to wait until they're much older to have sex. So abstaining is a great idea. I'm not opposed to abstaining. I think it's a terrific idea for young people.
For every dollar that's spent on abstinence only, $12 are spent on safe sex. So we don't need to spend our $1 to teach what $12 is already taught, is the other way to look at the argument.
What they're doing is counting all the money that goes to reproductive health services for young people. So if a clinic somewhere in California, most teenagers, unless they're making a lot of money as teenagers, not their parents, but as teenagers, unless they're making a lot of money, then they get free reproductive health care in the state of California. So those dollars, which are for clinic services, are being counted by Silver Ring and the other groups that say it's 12 to 1. And that's an unfair comparison because that's not education in the school. There's a lot of funding for abstinence programs, and there are organizations throughout the country that will go to schools and say, we will come in to your school and we will implement an abstinence program and it will cost you nothing. We will provide all the training and all the materials. And schools then think that's great and they invite them in. There's no similar funding mechanism for comprehensive programs. So people who are wanting to encourage comprehensive sex education in schools far too often cannot go to a school and say, we will come in, implement an effective program, and this will cost you nothing, because they don't have the funding for that. When we turn to abstinence programs, the evidence is very strong that some of the programs are not effective at changing behavior, and there's very weak evidence that a few programs might have a positive impact. Texas has really placed a huge emphasis upon abstinence, and in some cases has made it more difficult for young people to obtain contraception rather than making it more easy. If you then look at the period 1991 to about 2003, 2005, the last years for which we have data, California has either the first or second largest decreases in teen pregnancy in the country out of the 50 states. Texas has either the first or second smallest decrease in teen pregnancy during that same period of time. So California has been hugely successful at reducing teen pregnancy rates. Texas, in comparison with other countries, has been hugely unsuccessful. Their rates have still come down, but not nearly as much as in other states, and less so than 48 or 49 other states. It's a very interesting comparison.
And why?
Why?
Yeah.
Because they took an abstinence approach, and because California took a comprehensive approach. Texas, the rate decreased by 19%, and in California, it decreased by 46%.
Wow.
So that's a huge difference.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I notice you color-coded the least amount of decrease in pregnancy rates are red states.
That is true. And what does red mean?
Conservative and Christian.
Red means that happen to have, sorry, this is a bit old, I happen to have updated it. The red voted for Kerry in 2004.
Or red
voted
for Bush.
for Bush in 2004, and the blue voted for Kerry in 2004.
Wow.
So it's just so clear that the states which we think of as being more progressive and have taken a more progressive approach to reducing teen pregnancy have dramatically have much larger reductions than those that don't.
Part of the reason why they advertise that condoms don't work in these abstinence programs is because if you say you're going to be abstinent to marriage and you put on a ring and make a vow to God, and then you end up having sex and not using a condom, you'll most likely get an STD or pregnant. And it's like showing you did something wrong, so deal with the consequences.
If you were to do sex safely, it's premeditated. If you don't do sex safely, if you kind of just get caught up in the moment, kind of like, oh my gosh, I crossed this thing, and oh wow, we just got caught up in the whole, people can, you can be forgiven for getting kind of, but I'm human forgiven. I'm not talking about God. But you can kind of be, you can let it slide if you are the person who gets caught up in the moment. Because man, people, we know what that's like. We can get, like, humans can get caught up in the moment, and they can, all of a sudden, be in bed naked together, and let's just stick it in. But if you had actually brought a condom, you would have premeditated it. And premeditated sin is always looked at, with a bigger frown than unpremeditated.
Sex prior to marriage is a sin. So why are we telling young people how to protect themselves and sin?
How to sin safely.
I really do try to present the research in a balanced way, and sometimes I don't like the findings, but I present them anyway. But I'm also a proponent of comprehensive programs, partly because they work and they don't have negative consequences. So what can I and others like myself do that we're not already doing to help evangelicals see, understand, or whatever, change their views in some of the ways that we've been talking about? Is there anything we can do, or is it
have that education in school, like abstinence was always taught. So when I first experienced it, it was just something that I did because I was curious. And really, if I had kind of understood it more or known about it, I probably wouldn't have been as experimental with my curiosity when I was so young, because I first had sex when I was 15 years old. I went to a Catholic school until I was in 5th grade, so that was my complete experience of life, was like organized by this religion, going to Mass 3 times a week and everything.
What did the Catholic school tell you about sex or?
Nothing. At 20, I had a planned pregnancy with my boyfriend, and we had been together about 6 months. And he had really wanted a baby, and he told me that it was his purpose to have kids and that he was so in love with me, and we were really in love. And then I got pregnant, and he was out of town, and I told him, and he just told me to get an abortion. So I was really devastated. I didn't understand what happened to him or what was going on, because I had told him for about 3 months, I'd still been like, no, let's not try, I'm too young, I don't want to have kids. And he still persisted almost daily. Like, I want to be a dad, you'd be a wonderful mother, I want to see you pregnant, I'll take care of you, you can stay with the kids. And then something happened. So about 2 months later, I'm still pregnant, and there's no contact with him. Like, he's out of the picture. So I'm trying to save money and do everything, and he tells me that he's been seeing someone else the whole time, and just all this stuff. So I was completely devastated and scared. And so I went online and I was looking at places, because every time we would have contact, he would just get an abortion. That's all he would say. And everyone else would tell me, you know, my parents were get an abortion, my friends get an abortion, what can you do? You can't work the whole time. So I looked online, and the first thing that popped up when I put in abortion in the search engine was that there's an alternative. And it was like a Planned Parenthood kind of place, but it wasn't Planned Parenthood. And I went in and made an appointment, and they did an ultrasound for me and showed me the baby. So it was like the opposite. Like they gave me a life-sized little doll of how big my baby actually was, and they told me how it swims and has fingernails and all this stuff. So then I was really like, okay, I can't do that at all. And then the next month, like, we were just fighting off and on, and I was so sick from being nauseous and just pregnancy that I couldn't work, and I wasn't making enough money. So I thought about it, and I thought that it would be best for the baby.
How far along were you?
12 weeks.
How long ago was that from now?
It was in May, and now is August.
How do you feel afterwards?
I wouldn't have done it.
Really?
Yeah, but everybody that has ever had an abortion that I've talked to, they all say they regret it. I mean, 11 years down the line, 15 years down the line, even when they have other kids and grandkids, they still say, I wouldn't have done it. But I really don't think it affects you so much physically, and even emotionally, not necessarily. It depends how attached you are. But you wonder, like, am I going to be punished for this? Like, is God not going to let me get pregnant, or am I sick because of this? And they say there's so many health effects that are related to it, but it's just like the lack of knowing, like, what really happens when you have an abortion. Really, I didn't do it for me, though. Like, if it had been about what's best for me, I would have kept the baby. But it was for the baby, because I'm thinking about its school and its food and how it needs time and a babysitter all the time, or me, and that I can't work and take care of the baby. To these choices, because my ex even told me afterwards, I was like, I can't believe you talked me into this, and he said, well, you did it, it was your choice, because when it comes down to it, it is our choice. But what kind of pressure is that? Like, guys don't have to understand that, so they're just fine with it. Like, they can leave their families and walk out on their kids, and they don't feel the effects that we do.
Change it, but it's out of my hands. There's so many things that I wanna say, but I don't wanna say goodbye. I feel the tears welling up inside as you slide away, as you slide away. Oh, no.
What if you found out one of your previous partners was pregnant with your kid? What would you do?
I don't think about it because I pull.
Somebody else's.
It's somebody else's because I did not put that in you. So I don't even think about it.
We all know Ben would push him down the steps.
I'm sadly to say I'm pro-life, which is why I pulled, because ain't no girl getting an abortion with my baby. So
I wouldn't want the baby to grow up in poverty.
Exactly. But I am pro-life, so the baby has to be born somehow.
Okay, so abortion is not an option today. No.
We're Republicans.
Yeah, I knew what to say.
Liberal.
I'm a Democrat.
We're Republican.
Yeah.
You're an idiot.
Yeah.
That's about right.
Let's not get on this.
Are you kidding me?
We won't get on this subject.
Yeah, it's a whole different subject.
We're talking about sex right now.
You and your
We're not gonna talk
cliffhanger can
personal.
do whatever you want.
Oh, but I don't wanna say goodbye. Well, I feel those tears welling up inside. Oh, I just slide away. I just slide away. Oh no, I miss you.
I get when somebody says, but it's my baby. Who are you to tell me? You know, it's like, I created that baby. Why should you tell me or legislate to me as a government whether or not I can abort that baby? Well, if there's no creator and it's just law and order, then I can see the debate. But if it's more morality from a source of a creator, then I don't get the debate, even in rape, even in incest. If God created, who has the permission to take that innocent life away? And then when it comes down to abstinence, the same thing. I teach abstinence because it's God's plan. And if it wasn't, I don't know why I wouldn't think anybody should have sex. And, by the way, why shouldn't a father have sex with his daughter? I mean, where does that come from? Who makes that rule up? Where does that morality come from? Why would you think that's not okay? I mean, I'm not saying I agree with that, but I'm saying, why wouldn't you do that? Didn't you create that child? Isn't that your child? If you have the choice to abort or not abort, why don't you have the choice to have sex or not have sex with that child? Oh, I couldn't do that. That's wrong. Where does the wrong come from?
It's not Christianity's responsibility to come down and define rules. We would like to say that the Bible says don't have sex before marriage, but honestly, it doesn't say that. There's nowhere in the Bible that it says don't have sex before marriage. It says to flee sexual immorality. Well, sexual immorality, that line that goes from, you know, this is an immoral, immoral. That line is different for everybody.
You believe what you believe.
Yeah.
The question is, should your belief be the underpinnings of the law, especially in a country that values religious freedom? Comprehensive sex education, the main thing that it addresses is the idea that this is a large, diverse nation, and our sex education should reflect what all of us, regardless of race or religion or social class or whatever, needs to know so that we can make the decisions that come from our value system. A couple of years after Roe versus Wade, abortion was just legalized. It was a medical procedure like any other. If you qualified for Medicaid, you qualified for your abortions to be covered by Medicaid. And there was an amendment called the Hyde Amendment that was passed that banned federal funding for all abortions. Now, we still have some federal subsidies for birth control, and depending on what kind of federal aid you qualify for, you can actually get that covered. But abortion, if you're in the military or you have a federal job or if you're on Medicaid and you need an abortion, you're not eligible under any federal benefits program that you may get all your medical care from. The reason this is problematic is it creates two classes of women. And I think that's really shows exactly what kind of thinking that we're dealing with when we're dealing with the anti-choice movement. It's not just about babies or life, it's about hierarchies and keeping the poor under the rich and women under men and black under white and just having these social structures. So you have a situation where someone like Ann Coulter can run around on TV and scream about how bad feminists are, but if she ever needed an abortion, she could do it quietly, discreetly, and afford it. But, you know, the people that have the least access to birth control even or education are also the least protected if they get pregnant, which they do more often because they have no protection. So, I mean, this is more than just when you're talking about abstinence only versus comprehensive sex education or birth control or anything like that, you're really talking about a situation where the poor get a short end of the stick.
What would you say was the lowest point in your life?
Lowest point?
I would probably have to say that is when I was living in my car, working at a gas station, pregnant with my youngest son, and split custody with my older son. My mom was a single mom. She was kind of into drugs and stuff, so yeah, one of those upbringings. She went to rehab when I was 13 and 14, so I lived with my aunt, which also into drugs. So it was really a change in scene. And then, of course, I got pregnant when I was 16 with Aiden. I wanted someone that I can love and who would love me back regardless, I guess, was part of my emotional reasons. I think mostly it was due to wanting someone to love me unconditionally and wanting to love somebody unconditionally, and I knew with this baby, having this baby, I'd be able to love him unconditionally. If I was back there again, would I? Probably not, just because though mentally I was as ready as you can be and perfectly capable, not financially. I was living in my car and eating top ramen that I heated up on the dashboard. That's what I do. I'd go and buy top ramens because it's, cheap, and I'd find water somewhere, go to a sink or whatever. That's how I was taking my showers too, just doing the washing up in the sink, and I'd fill that up with water and set it on my dashboard, on hot days, and that would warm it up, and that's what I would eat.
How long did that go on?
Well, from the time that I was about 3-4 months pregnant up until 8 months pregnant, 8.5 months pregnant. So, about 4 or 5 months or so. And then I went into the first shelter. I was there for 4 months. That's their limit. And I left that one, and for another week I was in my car because I had nothing. Actually, I just had my baby when I was in the first shelter, and then transitioned to the car. He was only a few days old, so that was difficult, but luckily I was only in the car for about a week. And then another shelter, transitional housing shelter, they accepted me. I moved in the day after Thanksgiving, and that same day I got a call from my case manager telling me that the housing authority has approved my case and that I would be getting a voucher soon. So it was all this bad stuff at once, but then it turned around to all this wonderful things at once. I was so happy. My baby was born healthy, so I was thankful for that. I just gotten into a transitional shelter that would allow me to live there up to a year if I needed. So I was thankful about that, and then I got the call from the housing authority, and I was even more thankful for that. So I was so happy. Everything bad that finally I was like, oh, this is awesome, this is great, I'm finally gonna get my life started, I guess.
Wow, it's amazing.
My situation right now is probably the best it's been in my lifetime so far yet. I think this is my peak so far in my life, and I only intend for it to get better.
I am here, whether or not I wanna be, I am here, and I have no fear. Hope you believe the lie, I have no fear. Well, I am guilty of making promises I know I'll never keep, and making plans that will never be.
professor of pediatrics at the University of California, San Francisco, and I do research on adolescent pregnancy and pregnancy prevention. I've been in the field for over 25 years. The concerns I have about the desire to prevent abortions from happening is that I see a lot of social concern, financial concern, funding for pregnancy care programs or abstinence-only messages. I don't see the same clamor, I don't see the same attention being paid to young people once they have the baby. Once the baby is out of the womb and young people don't have the resources to help support their children, they don't have money for rent, they don't have money for food, etc., where is the right to life movement? I would feel much better about these arguments about morality if I saw the investment not only being upfront, but also after the fact when the baby is here. I don't see the same kind of movement around supporting maternal and child health programs. I see many of these individuals not engaged in those conversations and not supporting young women who need not only their families to support them, and I don't mean that just financial support, but also the support around what does it take to be a good parent? How do I teach you how to discipline your baby so that you're not creating this cycle of child abuse, for example?
Why do you think for you it's been okay to get pregnant when not being married?
For me, I guess because I already grew up in a broken home, so it wasn't anything, it wasn't something I knew. I didn't know fathers being around, and I didn't know much about marriage and stuff like that. I'm like, it's a piece of paper.
We see a youngster being raised in a single-parent home with few resources, a father who may be very absent, or several other children in the family with many different fathers who fathered them. And a lack of real commitment on the part of the community as well as the family to try to figure out how to prevent this from happening in a second generation or a third generation.
I'm 25 years old. I live in Pahrump, Nevada, and I'm a single mother of 5. So my father has 30 children, and he had most of his children with one woman, which is really crazy, huh? Like half of them was with one woman, almost half. He had 12 children with one woman. Well, me and my brothers and my sisters were shuffled between the system and my grandparents. Never with our parents, though. At the age of 14, I was by myself. I was in foster homes and lockup facilities, and I was a dancer. I was in the gang. I did just everything, except for drugs.
In the qualitative research I've done, I've heard of teenagers say to me, I had to get pregnant in order to get out of the gang. That was the only way that I could be protected.
If I never had a child, starting with my first son, that I probably would have been a devil worshiper or something like that because of the gang I was in. I believe that, not even a devil worshiper, I just think that I would have just been just against the odds with everything, with everything. I'm just proud that I had a kid at 18 years old. If I would have waited to 25, I think if right now, I probably would have been in jail or something. Yep.
So they changed your life around?
My children changed my life. He was literally about that big.
Oh my gosh. How premature was he?
He was almost 3 months early.
Wow.
So wasn't he. My body was like overly stressed, they said. And I found out that I was pregnant at 5.5 months pregnant. I had him a month later. And he was born with his bones broken from his collarbone down. And he was in a body cast, and then he went to a harness, and it took him a long time to crawl and walk and stuff, but he ended up doing just fine. And he had 3 surgeries on his heart.
People who have unintended pregnancy tend to have delay going for prenatal care. They tend to have a greater incidence of low birth weight babies. There are a lot more complications. So we all don't want children to be brought up in environments where that support's in there, as well as if they don't have the economic means.
Do you receive child support from none of the fathers?
Nobody helps me. No child support. I don't get no money from the government, like the welfare money. I just started getting food stamps. They said I was making too much money for food stamps. And I just got food stamps this month. For Visiting Angels, I make $14.50 an hour. And for the hospital, $10. So.
What?
Yep.
$10 an hour
That's
at a
it.
hospital?
That's it. $10.
You said that you stripped when you were 16?
Yep.
How long did you do that?
I did all until I was 21 years old. It was very uncomfortable for me, but I did it because I had no income and no money, and I wasn't going to be a prostitute. And that was the fastest way, and I couldn't get a job, especially now with a high school diploma. I couldn't get nothing like a good job. So I did that because it was better income. My children don't know nothing about that. You know, my children don't know nothing about gangs. They don't know nothing about nothing. You know, they never seen dead bodies. They never seen no one get beat up before, unless they was watching TV. You know, and I don't want my kids to see nothing that I've seen.
Can you tell us about when you lost your virginity, if you felt any different, or did you feel guilty afterwards or anything?
Well, I actually didn't lose my virginity. My virginity was taken from me. I was raped when I was 12 years old.
Oh.
But the first time I had sex was when I was 17 on my own. So I didn't really get the chance to have my virginity, like, taken willingly.
Who was it when you were 12?
I don't know who they are.
How did that happen?
I was on my way to a baby shower. I had a friend that was having a baby, and I was walking down the American Legion Highway. That's like a highway back where I live at, and these Puerto Ricans dragged me into the park, which is Franklin Park. They raped me. And they shoved sticks and stones and stuff in me because I was fighting them off, and they beat me up. And I had to drag myself across the highway to the gas station, and no one helped me. I was bleeding, and no one helped me. And finally, the person inside the gas station realized I was bleeding. They called the ambulance.
Wow.
Yeah, so
it was a gang rape?
I guess that's what they would call it. I'm not too sure who they were. I don't know if it was a gang rape, but it was definitely like, yeah.
Or like a bunch of people.
A bunch of, yeah. Yeah.
So you were 12 going to a baby shower. Was it a young girl?
Yeah. She was 13.
13? And so did you tell
her
them?
Second baby at 13. She had her first baby when she was 11 years old. Her second baby at 14. She was 13 when she was pregnant and had a baby at 14. And that was very common too. The 11 years old being pregnant and stuff. 12.
Wow. How did you deal with that afterwards? Did you go to therapy or?
I never dealt with it actually. I never dealt with it. No one was there. Like I didn't have no help.
In the many years that I've been in this field, one thing that has really struck me is the high incidence of sexual abuse and the experiences of very early exposure to sexual, unwanted sexual attention. And when people think about sexual abuse, they often think, oh, the pregnancy was the result of the sexual abuse. But oftentimes, it's the fact is that this happened much, much earlier. It brings up, it impacts the development of the young person. It raises a lot of questions about self-doubt, about her own esteem, whether she might have been at fault for, bringing on this attention to herself, whether, girls tend to take on the fault for this to have happened. So oftentimes we find these young women tend to start having sex earlier. They tend to not protect themselves against a pregnancy. They tend to be in a relationship with older guys than women who don't have that sexual abuse. And to me, it's a spiraling that happens, that they've had this early experience. They don't think of themselves as good. They're testing themselves. They're testing whether they can attract a young man without necessarily being thinking that it was a coercive experience. And so it's a very complex dynamic. And I think what's really shocking is how many young women have been sexually abused and who don't express that they've been sexually abused.
I was molested as a child too.
By a family member?
You can say he was a family member, he wasn't biologically bloodline. He was a foster brother that my great-grandmother had in her household since he was a baby. And I was like 6 years old and he was 13 or 14. And he was doing it for a long time. I can't really tell you how long it was because I was little. I just know it was going on for a long, long, long time. And we would have this thing. It was like a family night, and my great-grandparents had these tents, and we was able to set up tents, and we felt like we was camping in the living room. And he did it every Friday and Saturday for a long, long time. And then finally my great-grandfather caught him.
Really?
One of the things that is most alarming about abstinence only is that it doesn't address very specific ways that talking about sex in age-appropriate manners from kindergarten on can protect children from things like sexual abuse. Because if you're not talking to kindergartners about what parts are private and what sex is, if somebody sexually abuses them, they don't even know enough to tell an adult because, we've been too scared to tell them that was even wrong.
What do you think that makes you feel about just men in general, that you were molested by a family member and raped by people you didn't know?
You know what? When it comes to men, I think for myself, I can speak for myself, and I think I might be able to speak for a lot of other girls that have been through what I went through, that it can go both ways. Either you can be real fast and promiscuous and want that attention from men, or you can just resent men, and hate them. And I let men get in my head as a teenager, and I believed everything men said. I believed everything, because I was just gullible. I was real gullible, real naive and stuff, and sometimes I could still be naive. And I just listen to anything anybody says sometimes, and it's because it sounds good. I like I said, I like to hear better things than bad, So if it sounds good, I'll listen to everything. You have to say it's just I like to hear nice things, And that's how I was as a kid, and I got pregnant, Just hearing nice things and believing nice things, And it was just all a lie, everything was a lie and stuff. But I got my children, I can't send them back to where they came from. So I got them and raised them by myself. I wouldn't look down on no one though. To each his own, and I'm not to judge anyone because I was judged and I had a hard time being judged, So to each his own. But just know that you do that, that's on you, You just, like I said, I believe in God, so you need to repent and always let God know that he's first and let him know where your faults were, because when your time comes, then you'll know where you go. And you'll know when you're dying that where you're going. That's what I believe. I believe that when you die, you'll know where you're going, to heaven or hell. And I believe hell is on earth. Yes, I do. Because everything happens here. Everything bad happens here. Everything. And I just think hell is on earth. And I think we just living in hell. Especially in Las Vegas. It's hot as hell out here. And I think that's why it's called Sin City.
grew up in a nice, good Catholic family, so nakedness was not something that was accepted. Sex was not discussed in my house at all. So I know I was kind of a little bit sheltered. I was going to college up in Oregon, and I flat out ran out of money. I didn't know anything going into it, and I truly went in blindly, and it really became something that I found that I enjoy doing. I have a passion for. It's kept me young. It's kept me enthusiastic. I just teach classes now. I'm at 38 years old. I leave the clubs to the new girls. You know, I'm not that hungry anymore to make that dollar. My family's older. My kids, and my son just graduated from high school. My daughter's a sophomore. I don't need that desire. I'm comfortable where I'm at.
The fact is, the majority of kids are going to have sex before marriage.
95%.
95% of kids have sex before marriage. And that's all religions included in that statistic. So, do we want to lower that statistic, or do we just say that's the way it is and let's at least make them safe?
You know, I would hope that my daughter is going to go out and protect herself, that she's going to make sure that she has everything available to her when she chooses to engage in a relationship, whether it's with a guy or a girl or whatever, that she chooses to make sure that she's safe and protected, that she's not going to get something. Is there 100% authenticity in any condom or foam or gel or, you know, anything out there? No. But is there a guarantee that when I put on my seatbelt in the car that it's going to save my life? No, but what do statistics say? Put your seatbelt on. Put your seatbelt on, put your seatbelt on. When you hop in the sack, put your seatbelt on, baby.
Why did you not go on birth control?
With
the pill.
I didn't trust it. I didn't know how. I didn't know enough about it, enough about anything really.
I said to Mr. Bradley, I said I wouldn't tell my daughter to use a condom if she was going to be sexually active. I wouldn't encourage it. He said, you wouldn't? Why not? I said, because I don't think it's going to protect her.
I think promoting abstinence isn't a bad thing. I don't. I think that when you're ready to have sex, great, but don't go around preaching that there is no such thing as safe sex, that nothing's 100% positive. You need to protect yourself. There's worse things out there than pregnancy. There's things that'll literally kill you, and it'll be slow and icky how they're going to kill you. And so to say that don't bother trying to protect yourself is asinine. I can't imagine that. That's the only word I can think of is asinine. I'm shocked and disappointed that something so archaic would still be supported and pushed as an agenda today. That's frightening. That's truly frightening. I don't think we need to digress like that. I think we need to stay going forward. I think we need to understand our bodies and the chemical makeup that we have and the urges and be mature and adult and not be controlled by men under the vice and under the cover and cloak of a higher power saying that this is what we need to do. What I need to do is be responsible to myself and my own heart. I need to be responsible to people I come in contact with. I need to be responsible to take care of the earth for my babies, to pass them on to my grandbabies, to my great-grandbabies, to lineage that I'll never see. But my responsibility is to continue forward, not digress. That purity ball is something of a new concept to me. I was unfamiliar with that. My gut reaction was how archaic. Again, my father does not have control over my pussy. I'm sorry to put it that way, but wow, to me, the creep factor comes in right there. My father has nothing to do with if he's raised me as a good person to respect the world around me and to respect myself, I think he needs to trust me as an intelligent person to make good and correct decisions. He does not own me. My father, your father, anybody's. Again, I think it goes back to power. It's that male power wanting to feel that dominance because they understand that we don't realize how powerful we are as women. So to hand off, I'm going to pass the baton to you, son, to make sure you keep this power in check. And it's your job now to keep your little wifey under your thumb and have her barefoot pregnant in the kitchen to procreate, because remember, we're not using birth control now, to procreate and keep this charade going, to keep the charade going. We don't realize how powerful we are, and that's the saddest part about it. We don't realize how powerful we are.
They have just released their budget.
President Obama almost completely cut abstinence-only funding,
eliminating more than $100 million of Bush-era abstinence-only programs.
They're going to spend $178 million on teen pregnancy prevention.
Comprehensive sex education that starts with abstinence but then teaches teens about contraception works. That's what prevents teen pregnancy. That's what helps teens make better decisions.
75% of the programs are proven to have delayed sex and increased contraceptive use or reduced teen pregnancy.
Today is a victory for people of all ages who believe that science and accurate information should always trump ideology and religious motivation, especially in the classroom.
I honor and respect young people who choose to delay sexual activity. Sex is not something casual. When the statistics tell us that nearly half of 15 to 19-year-olds are engaging in sexual activity, for us to leave them in ignorance is potentially consigning them to illness, pregnancy, poverty, and in some cases death, and that's absolutely unacceptable.
What is this road? What is this journey? And where does time go so slowly? And how can we help but be who we are? And change can end too much. Love may be the end of us, but why should we fear? Because with all the wandering, I'm weightless here in my dreams. What is this someday? What is it really? But a tomorrow or today. Love may be the end of us, but why should we fear? Because with all the wandering, I'm weightless here in my dreams. Suddenly I'm running slowly. Suddenly it all goes dark. Suddenly I'm running slowly. Suddenly it all goes dark.